Don't bother me, I'm speedrunning Golden Treasure. Hey everyone, this is Hybrid here, and I am back with another Golden Treasure the Great Green Secret Ending speedrun. I'm making this video for two reasons. First, I am recording this on December 14th, 2020. Compared to my last recording in May, I have a couple of routing changes, and we are hopefully finally going to get this under 1 hour 15 minutes. Second, I would like to use this video for a submission for any marathon speedrun event that I might like to attend. So I will be giving commentary with a mixture of talking about the story, as well as the speedrun mechanics and research that has gone into it. So I will explain as I go, so let's go ahead and start a new life in 3, 2, 1, go. So in this game, you play as a dragon from inside of its egg all the way to young adulthood. The setting is a science fantasy version of Bronze Age Earth. The genre is a mixture of interactive fiction, RPG, and adventure. Interactive fiction in the sense that most of what I'm doing is selecting text options down in the bottom portion of the screen. RPG in the sense of having stats based on the 4 classical elements as well as turn-based combat. And adventure in the sense of collecting items in certain places and using them in certain places. So we are inside of our egg here, being given telepathic communication by our birther creator, or mother, about what it means to be a dragon. Speedrun-wise, as we go on here, we want to, generally speaking, select the topmost options, as they do become clickable first. So every time you can do that, it saves a couple of frames. Of course, you may have seen me select the third option a couple of times back there. In this particular case, the top options would play out little animations, and you would have to wait for the animations to end before you go on to the next question. So it is actually faster in the long run. So we've hatched out of our egg here, and we're going to see the first paintings of this game, where everything's a little blurry, a little confused. But we climb out of this little chamber here, and we find ourselves in this cave. We can go towards the water or towards the light. In casual play, you want to go towards the water. You see your reflection, and it's a nice little scene. But we're going to go towards the light. It is faster. And we come to this cliff, and what are we going to do? We're going to jump off the cliff. Whee! Well, that didn't work too well, but it did give us our first tarot card or achievement. We need 20 of these in order to unlock the secret ending. And you get tarot cards by completing major side quests and finding secrets. So we come down to this jerkbird who's like, haha, you can't fly. And I say, dude, I'm 5 minutes old. Give me a break. And we come over here to investigate something strange, and we find that our dear birther creator, who taught us so much, has been slain by these strange creatures. Obviously we need some revenge. We seem to have taken an arrow in the chest, but no problem. Let's just keep fighting, and, well, we're dead. Well, no problem. This is a roguelite game. You only have one save game that constantly rewrites itself, but you have 3 lives. So we just used up one of our lives there. No big deal. So we just get sent back a little bit to where our dear birther creator has been slain by these very strange creatures. Obviously, we need some revenge. Well, we seem to have taken an arrow in the chest, but no problem. Let's just keep fighting, and, well, we're done again. I must admit, we are just a couple of minutes into the speedrun, and this is a little bit concerning. We've already lost 2 of our lives. Does not leave much room for error. But I'm sure we can get this. So we come over here to where our dear birther creator has been slain by these very strange creatures. Obviously, we need some revenge. We seem to have taken an arrow in the chest, but no problem. Let's just keep fighting, and, well, we're dead again. Obviously, I'm doing this on purpose. You do get an achievement for dying. And that is the most convenient place by far to get that achievement. If you're playing this game for real, casually, not that speedrunning isn't real, but if you're playing this casually, most of your deaths are going to be in combat. Those are going to take a little while to get to. There are other instant deaths like that, but they are buried pretty deep into the game. That one is available right away. Also, normally when you die, it sends you back to the start of the day and gives you this little speech about what you saw was a dream. Right there, it skips the speech, so it is altogether the fastest possible, and we just get to come back here to where we redo our stats for hatching out the egg. So we need 15 fire, 13 water, and the rest into earth. So pretty convenient there. Also, there is an achievement for going from out of your egg to making it to the ending sequence in one continuous life, and this counts. You don't need to start in the prologue, you can start from hatching right here. and still get that achievement. So it's altogether as convenient as it could possibly be, despite the inherent inconvenience of dying in the first place. So we are back in this chamber, and we climb out, and we go towards the light. And we come to the cliff. We're going to climb down safely this time. It is slightly faster because it does not have an animation. And we come down to this jerk bird who's like, haha, you climbed down a cliff. And I say, dude, I just cannot win with you, can I? But we get it to divulge a secret, that in the mouth of our birther creator is a special treasure called the Crystal Fang, and that is going to be very useful to us. So we're going to sneak forward and look for the Fang, and we get the Fang, and I'm just going to keep clicking down here, and that is okay. Turns out that whenever you are collecting an item, but there's still more to click on, you can just keep clicking, and that's fine. So it starts to rain, we're a little bummed out, it's our first day of life, and already one of our parents is dead. We are, after all, an RPG protagonist. It's not much of an RPG if your protagonist is not an orphan. We get a little tutorial here about the user interface and our stats. Our stats are based on the 4 classical elements of fire, water, earth, and air. Fire for strength, water for empathy and stealth, earth for durability, and air for intelligence and speed. So we go outside and we look at the stars and we sing a song to fire. It gives us 5 mastery points of fire. So whenever I talk about gaining elemental points or elemental mastery points, that is leveling up your abilities. The game asks if we would like to do the combat tutorial. We say no, otherwise that takes about 5 minutes. And we go out the next day to investigate something strange. And we find the Dragon Paragon of Wisdom, Darktooth, who tells us a little bit more about what it means to be a dragon, as well as he gives us our first major quest of the game, to go northeast to the Spirit Wood, the sort of heart and soul of the forest, and to claim it as our territory. But we do have a little bit of time to explore the immediate area. Now, after meeting Darktooth, this is an open world RPG, so the game opens up and I come to this map where I can now click on these different icons that appear that represent different side quests and points of interest. I can choose to click on any of them in any order, or choose not to visit them at all. Our first order of business is to go get some energy. Now, normally you get energy from hunting grounds, where you chase down animals and you fight them and whatnot, but we want to get all of our energy from events, such as this event where some children are playing, so we ambush one of them and eat them alive and steal his necklace. Because dragon. Just in case it wasn't clear up to this point, you are playing as a dragon in this game, and you are not only able to do things like that, you are expected to. Good times. The next event we go to is this place where some people are digging clay out of the side of a hill through some very cunning maneuvers by setting fire to the hillside because dragon, and by using a cow as a distraction, we are able to steal their special item called the shake stick. The shake stick is able to mine precious stone out of ordinary rock, which is a very useful thing for a dragon because we are expected to keep a hoard of treasure. But we're not going to use it for that, we're going to sell it. But in order to sell it, we need to get it identified first, so we need some money up front. So we're going to come over here to this stream where there's some shiny stones, and we're going to collect some shiny stones. Your currency in this game is shiny things, which are not very useful on their own, but they act as the cold, hard cash for dragons. Next, we're going to go over to Darktooth and say certain things to him in a certain order. First, we're going to say we found an interesting object, the shake stick, so he will identify that. And then we're going to say, would you like to trade? He says, trade? Dude, you're 5 days old. You think you have something to trade with me? And we say, yes, the shake stick you just identified. So he gives us 100 shiny things for that. And with those shiny things, we can now afford to ask him about his normal topics, which give us some very easy stat gains. And then one more interesting object, the Crystal Fang, as we were using that later, and we leave. I did not mention your energy is a sort of chain or double helix down in the bottom portion of the screen. When it's flashing red, that means it's very low. Normally it's yellow. So we need to keep that high. If that runs out, then you die of starvation. Our next order of business is to go to where a friendly water spirit is, and this water spirit will ask us 3 riddles over the course of 3 days. If we get all 3 of his riddles correct, then we get several water mastery points, as well as an item called the Obstinate Stone, both of which we need. So his first riddle is, I came to an obstacle. What did I do? And we say, you went around it. Because water tends to flow around things. It takes the path of least resistance where possible. We go back the next day, and its second riddle is, there was once a dragon who wanted to destroy me. How may I be destroyed? And the answer he's looking for is, you cannot be destroyed, because electrolysis has not been invented yet. We go out the next day, and we find a deer that has died under mysterious circumstances. We're going to eat it, because dragon. Even though that's a bad idea, because this deer did die of disease, so by eating it, we are going to get a pretty major stomach ache in a couple of days. But we do need the energy. And we go back to the water spirit on the third day, and he says, I am inside of you. What do you call the water inside of you? And we say, you are the red essence, which is the dragon term for blood. So we are now water level 3, which unlocks the combat ability called Pacify, and we got the Obstinate Stone, which we will be using in a few minutes. I'm going to uncover one more bit of fog here. And then we wake up the next day, and we realize that we probably should not have eaten that deer. We have become ill. Illness in this game reduces all of your stats by 50%, makes you pretty useless in combat. If you're playing this casually, you can still go out and about, even while ill, and uncover fog, explore other events that do not rely on your stats. But for the speedrun, we're just going to rest 3 more days and get rid of that illness. Now's a good time to mention this jade statue down here represents your health in general. While it's glowing yellow, that indicates you are ill. It will also turn other colors, and this little gemstone, this blue gemstone, will also turn other colors to represent any health loss from injuries. You only actually lose health from combat or from other events that cause actual injury. Illness only makes it glow yellow. Alright, so it has stopped glowing yellow, so we can proceed onward to this event where there's an old badger who is probably not far from death of old age, but he does not want that. He wants to die in glorious battle, and battle with a dragon would definitely suffice. So we're going to totally cheese him by using Pacify, and then Power Strike 3 times. And that beats him really easily, 100% of the time. I'll explain how the combat works in just a moment here, but what's happening here is, if you've ever seen the movie Dragonheart, you know that valiant souls always go to live in the stars. So that badger is chilling out in the stars now, and he gives us the Bloodstone, as well as this achievement, Strength. It also gives us full badger mastery, and whenever you get full mastery of an animal, it gives you a neat little poem. So that's nice. Now the combat in this game is a sort of simultaneous turn-based. You select an attack from one of the 4 different elements, and your opponent also selects an attack in secret, and they clash against each other. There is a sort of rock, paper, scissors aspect to it. Fire beats air, air beats water, water beats fire. Earth stands alone and has its own special rules, but it also doesn't have any powerful attacks, so it's not generally worth using. A big power discrepancy makes the rock, paper, scissors part a little bit less important, but against the badger, he always starts with a fire move, and Pacify will disable his fire moves, and win the rock, paper, scissors. For the next 3 turns, he will use only air moves, which means I can use fire moves to counter him. So it's a little bit of AI manipulation. This rat is named Never Ever. He is the envoy of the mighty Drac Elder, many times burned. We will see him once more in the future. So we've come into this sort of maze or labyrinth, where there are several side paths of interesting things to see. We just want to make it to the very end, to the boss down here, to defeat the boss. By defeating the boss, we will get a special gas mask item called the False Face, as well as an achievement. There are random encounters down here, such as that rat pack. They're not too much trouble. I typically get 2 random encounters down here. On very rare occasions, I have gotten 1. I would say the chance of that is at least less than 20%, probably less than 10%. Well, we got 1 random encounter, so I guess we're lucky. Alright, so here is this tunnel of horrible maimed death killblades. we are going to drop down the obstinate stone to make the blade stop spinning, and we climb through very safely. And we meet these fire salamanders who say, hey, we'll give you this fancy gas mask if you enkindle us. And I say, sure, no problem, I know exactly what enkindling is. And they realize that we really don't know what enkindling is, and they decide to fight us instead. So, 1 second here. This is a little tricky. Okay. Alright, so the salamanders can start on one of 6 different moves, and all animals follow a certain pattern, but they start in a random spot in that pattern. So I'm afraid my reaction was a little bit slow there. I have to be prepared for any one of the 6 different moves that they can make. That was one of the good ones where I can beat them in 2 moves. So that worked out pretty well, and we got the false face and the achievement. So we are ready to go up here to the Spirit Wood. We're going to go claim it as our territory. However, there is another dragon here called Twist. He also wants to claim the Spirit Wood, so we are going to meet Twist, and he will challenge us to a riddle contest. The answers to his riddles are fire, water, earth, and air, which are only told to you time and time again, so he is pretty bad at coming up with riddles. So we commune with the forest now, and we feel that it likes us and accepts us. And then we claim it as our territory. And then we hibernate for 30 years. All pretty normal things. I'm sure we've all done that at least once or twice. So after 30 years of hibernation, we wake up, and we are now an adolescent dragon. And as an adolescent dragon, it is now our job to go forth and explore the world. First thing we're going to do is go over to Darktooth. And first of all, ask him about his normal topics, which give us some very quick stat gains. And after that, what he has for us now that we are an adolescent dragon is called the Great Lesson, where he is going to teach us the history of dragonkind and talk about different forms of philosophy. It does take 20 shiny things to enter the Great Lesson, but luckily we do have that. So we come over here to this bird, and he asks if we are wise and if we know the great truth. And we say, no, we are not very smart. And he says, correct. So this is a maze where our objective here is to see the 7 cave paintings that represent the history of dragonkind. Darktooth did draw these himself with molten gold and silver and copper. They are in a jumbled order, so it doesn't do me too much good to talk about them just yet, but we will need to put them in the correct order, and that's when I'll talk about them. There's not a whole lot else to talk about in here while I'm navigating through this maze. The speedrun is going fairly well so far. I was a little slow on the salamander fight. It took me a second to look up which move that was and what my necessary response was. It's very easy to mess that up. You have to make some very specific moves. Otherwise, things seem to be going pretty well, so I am pleased so far. Alright, this is the last cave painting. Now, next we are going to meet some cave salamanders who would like for us to put the history of dragonkind into the correct order. So it goes a little something like this. In the beginning, there was Earth and Sun, and they created dragons, and dragons ruled over everything. And then space aliens came and started destroying everything. And dragons fought the space aliens, and space aliens won. And space aliens, that wasn't that right. Space aliens put down humanoids of different sizes, and then the dragons came back out, and that's where we are today. Alright, I did have a misclick there, and also those are in a random order. That was a pretty bad order. So that was a little unfortunate, but I am just going to press on. Now we need to come to these different schools of philosophy that are run by these different fish. This is the School of Knowledge, where they're going to ask me to math during a speedrun. So 1 second here. Okay, that was really tough, but I didn't do too bad on that. I didn't actually mess up any of the questions. So I would say that's good enough. You can sometimes get a really easy set or a really hard set. That one included some double-digit multiplication, which is always hard. So this school of philosophy is the School of Wealth, where this octopus believes that sand is the solution to all of life's problems. And we ask for his blessing, and he says, sure, no problem, just bring me a bunch of sand, I'll be happy to give my blessing. And we don't really want to cart around a bunch of sand, so we just say, how about this? Give me your blessing or I'll kill you. And he says, okay, you can have my blessing. So is that problem solved? And you get random encounters in here. You are sometimes asked a random math problem. However, you can give any answer. Whether correct or incorrect, the result is exactly the same. So the next school of philosophy is the School of Nihilism, where this fish believes that he is a video game character and that nothing he does matters, which is not too far from the truth. So we ask for his blessing, and we actually need to not answer his questions. And that is the School of Nihilism. Now you may notice that our energy is very low and we are almost on the brink of starvation. However, the next school here, the School of Faith, will give us food for free if we just ask for it. You only need to ask for food twice here in order to get up to 100 energy, but what we're actually going to do is ask for food 3 times. And what it does is it lowers your reputation kind of artificially, and by lowering our reputation, it will save us some time in the long run. It saves about 10 seconds in the long run. And we ask for his blessing, and we just need to answer his questions. Here are the second, first, faith. If I could spell it right. Good enough. Let's press onward. Alright, so next we come to this manta ray, who wants to know if we would like to follow any one of these singular philosophies for the rest of our life. And of course we don't want to do that. So we just say no to each of these, and you have to explain why. You can just give the top answer, because the top answer is fastest. And that is the manta ray. So we come to Darktooth, who is looking very relaxed. He's very happy that we completed his great lesson. And we say, that's nice, goodbye. And he gives us a treasure called the Silver Rod, which is completely useless to us, as well as this achievement, the Hierophant. Hierophant is actually the next game being planned by Dreaming Door Studios. They really, really like that word, and that is okay. Now that we're back at our lair, we're going to use the Crystal Fang. The Crystal Fang is a memory crystal that holds some ancestral memories. So by depending on which part you use it in, whether part 1, 2, or 3, it gives you a different amount of stat points. By using it in part 2, it is 8 to each stat, which is pretty good. We have a lot of stats now, considering we are speedrunning and missing out on many events. A lot of this routing is very efficient stat gains that don't take very much time, but still allow us to overcome the necessary obstacles. And some bats invade our cave here. We are going to talk with them and ask them to share the cave. So we are making friends with the bats, and now we have bat friends. They are going to come in handy a little bit later here. Now we're going to go down to one of our neighbors, a dragon named Tempest, and challenge Tempest to a riddle contest for treasure. So Tempest comes down here and says hi. And the answer to his riddle is dawn. And he says, what? How could you get that right? That riddle is impossible. But for solving his riddle, we get the Bezoar Stone. Okay, the next place we are going to is this tree icon right here. That represents the spirit of the Great Green. So we're going to go say hi to the spirit of the Great Green. Before we do that, we need to solve 4 tests based off of our elemental masteries. So we're gonna go down here. And our first test is to follow the white rabbit, as you do. And our second test is that we would like to go and eat this animal, but we have to have the mental fortitude to ignore it and proceed onward. And we need to throw aside this stone with our great strength. And then this jackalope asks us a riddle. Is not a riddle that I select or type in. It is simply an air stat check. So we have solved all 4 tests, and we meet the Spirit of the Green. It says, hi, we are best friends now. And we get even more stats, and also an achievement, the High Priestess. Okay, next we will uncover a little bit more fog. Not too much to talk about at just this moment, just a little bit of fog uncovering. So our next order of business here is we're going to start making friends with the wolves. You might notice that there are several wolf icons popping up. There's one right there and one right there. We're going to go visit one of them, where a guardian is standing in front of a wolf den. We are going to challenge the guardian to honorable combat. And we're going to use Power Strike because Power Strike is overpowered. And we just one-shotted it. We're going to let it go. And we see these wolf pups, and we're going to talk with them and then leave. And by brutalizing that wolf out in front and scaring these wolf pups half to death and then leaving, we are helping to make friends with the wolves. Yeah, that makes sense. Let's go with that. The next thing we're going to do is go back up north to where you may have seen an orange fire icon. That icon represents a true dream or a vision of the future. And what we see is a fiery dragon that fights a deer in the sky. This represents a forest fire that will happen in the future unless we are able to prevent it. Luckily, we can go prevent it right away. So we're going to go down here to where a saber-toothed tiger spirit has possessed this guy. And he is over here. He is killing deer. He is killing other things. He is just sort of angry in general and does not know how to deal with his feelings. So what we do is we commune with the Spirit of the Green and perform what is essentially a dragon exorcism. So we use some fire on the guy because dragon, and then we eat him because dragon. And that is the problem solved. Well, it turns out that only deer can prevent forest fires, and they were being stopped by that guy. So the deer come back, but they don't know if they like me or not. So we need to treat them as sovereigns, and bow before them, and don't say the wrong thing, or else they do get offended and leave forever, and you are denied the necessary achievement over here. The Empress. Okay, another thing we need to start doing is making friends with the space elves. So there are some space elves over here having a good time. And what we are going to do is we're going to approach them and let them touch me. I assume in a sort of How to Train Your Dragon sense where Hiccup reaches out his arm slowly and Toothless moves his snout into Hiccup's outstretched hand. That's how I imagine it. and this rat steals our shiny things. We are going to, what it wants us to do is hunt some snakes. We agreed to hunt some snakes. We're not going to hunt any snakes. That takes way too long. Okay, we're going to do the other Space Elf event, where there are some Space Elves over here posing as trees. So we're going to observe the trees, and then breathe fire on them, because dragon. And what we're actually going to do is we're going to fail this logic test here by selecting the wrong answer. And then we're going to redo it. And the answers to the logic test is left, left, right, right, left, left, right, left, middle. I know it seems odd, but failing that logic test the first time and then getting it right on the second time actually saves us 12 seconds overall. And then we are approached by this Space Elf Dragon, who wants to do a certain something with me that I do not think I can talk about. And I say, I need to know what you really are. And it turns out it's a hologram for space aliens. You have space aliens in my dragon game, thank you. And we say, okay, look, you can do what you want, but I need information about animals. So it gives us knowledge on every animal. That's what's represented by all of these icons following over to the left side of the screen. And we also get this achievement. But what we need, actually, is 50% knowledge of wolves in order to make friends with wolves. And I like how they just keep flying over no matter what you're doing. You can come back to the map, you can come back to your lair, and they just keep going, man. They do not care. Let's see, right, so there's a lone wolf over here who's striking out Onesong. And we say, that's nice, goodbye. And that's the lone wolf event. Okay, we need to consume self. I'm unfortunately doing some of these things in a slightly wrong order, but we will get back on track here. This is fine. I'm gonna consume self again and rest. Okay, so now we're going to go over to the final wolf event, where some wolves are having a feast. And we don't really want to bother them, so we just say, that's nice, goodbye. And they say, hey, why are you leaving? And I say, I'm leaving because I don't care. And they accept that I don't care. This is helping to make friends with the wolves. So the next day, the wolves approach us and they say, it's really weird what you're doing. You keep coming close and leaving and we don't understand. And I say, I just love wolves. Let's be friends. And they say, okay, we can be friends, but we have to fight first. So we're making friends with the wolves by fighting with them. And we beat them with 2 power strikes. So now dragons and wolves are friends. And they give us the treasure called the Spirit Claw Clan, as well as this achievement, the moon. Okay, so that is all of the mandatory stuff we need to do in part 2. We have gotten all the achievements. The only thing remaining is our drac rivals, who want to conquer some of our territory. So they're just going to arrive on their own and we need to drive them away. The first one will be Flare, who is kind of an angry bully type, who says, I am very strong with fire, so you better just leave or I will burn you to a crisp. And what we do to drive him away is burn down a tree, because dragon, and Flare is just out of here. He runs for the hills. He is having none of that. And that's Flare. Our second drac rival is named Bloom. Bloom arrives with a bunch of animal friends. And in a casual play, Bloom is extremely tough and has caused the death of many a newbie. But we are going to use our wolves and challenge Bloom to a contest of song. And all of Bloom's animal friends are basically barnyard rejects. So they are not very good at singing, but wolves are great singers. So we are going to win that contest, no problem. In a casual play, Bloom is the slayer of newbies. Normally you have to, if you don't have wolves, and you don't have one of the other options, then you have to fight 2 animals and Bloom, and they'll probably just kill you. It is, for its time, for its place in the game, it is probably the hardest combat in the game. There are, of course, other combats that are harder in a strict stat sense, but at this sort of halfway mark of part 2, It is definitely the toughest. So here's Bloom. He also has a chicken on his head. So we summon our wolves and challenge Bloom to a contest of song, and Bloom just dies of embarrassment right then and there. He just drops dead of shame. It's pretty amazing. And that's Bloom. So our third drac rival is Whisper. He's kind of a sneaky, stealthy type who lurks in the shadows and messes with your head. Well, it turns out that much earlier we got some bat friends. So when we call in our bat friends, they are not stymied by the dark. They can locate Whisper for us, and we can get a sneak attack on him within the dialogue, which, with enough fire, will instantly kill Whisper, or instantly drive him away. Even if you do not have a very high fire stat, it still does serious damage to him, and the resulting combat should be very easily. In a marathon setting, this would be a good time to field a question or do a donation or something. I know pretty much all there is to know about this game. I've written several Steam guides, and just really, really love this game a lot. But Whisper is coming up any moment now. Here we go. And that is a good sneak attack, so Whisper is done. And that is the third drac rival dealt with, so that is all we need to do for part 2. We are just going to rest and wait for part 2 to conclude. Another thing I'm doing that I did not mention is that once you reach fire level 6, you get the ability to consume self. So that's what I'm doing here to restore my energy at the cost of 50% health. It means that I'm no longer even reliant on events, even though I've never been reliant on hunting grounds, which is your ordinary source of food in a casual play. So we've never gone to a hunting ground, and we've only needed to get energy from events a handful of times. Now that we have consumed self, we can just use that in perpetuity. There's not much else to talk about right here while part 2 is coming to a close, so I just want to mention, I just love this game an enormous amount. That's why I speedrun it. That's why I want to have it in a marathon. I just love it. I think its story is fantastic. I think it's the best adventure game to date, period. And also probably the best single-player game. So what's going on here is that winter is coming. So the wolves and the bats are going to move out. Actually, the bats are leaving. The wolves are going to stick around, but they're a little bit sad that we're going to hibernate again. And Darktooth comes to us in a dream, and is very happy that we completed his great lesson. And the Spirit of the Green comes to us in a dream, and is very happy that we completed its tests, and it gives us another achievement for preventing the forest fire, even though we got one for bringing the deer back. So we hibernate for 30 years, and we emerge as a big, beautiful dragon. Best scene of the game. We must embrace the wind, but thou must, even though I don't want to. Don't make me embrace the wind. I don't want to. So we go for our first flight, and everything is awesome. And then Darktooth is just a complete killjoy. He comes by and says, hey, these human things have become a little bit more of a problem. So in about 20 days, all of dragonkind is meeting in 20 days. Prepare yourself, then attend. And we say, okay, time to sleep for 20 days. There is nothing that we need to do that's mandatory in part 3 at this point. By completing the Great Lesson, we have earned our way into Darktooth's Wisdom ending. There are three main endings to this game where you follow one of the three different elders. There's Many Times Burned, Darktooth, and Allmother. We will talk about Many Times Burned and Allmother a little bit later as we do their endings. But the basic problem that Dragonkind is facing is that humans are becoming more numerous, more technologically capable. They're getting into more fights with dragons over territory, and more often than not, it's the dragons getting the worst end of the deal. So more and more dragons are dying, they're being killed by the humans, and this is completely unsustainable. So what the dragons are doing is they're calling a grand moot, where the three elders are going to make different propositions about what they're going to do to solve this issue. And Darktooth's solution is simply this. He's determined that he's seen the future as we know it in 2019 and 2020, where humans have taken over everything and there are no more dragons. So he says, here's my solution. Let's leave Earth. We can build a spaceship. I know of other habitable planets out there in the stars, and we can just leave. We can take the best and brightest of Dragonkind and just leave. And that's my plan. Whereas Many Times Burned would prefer to stay and fight, and Allmother has a solution of her own. But one of the key points that they all agree on, at least to a certain degree, is that they have foreseen the future. They know our future as we know it, where there are no more dragons. And Darktooth is simply saying, well, dragons on Earth are destined to become extinct. I accept this completely, but that doesn't mean that we can't exist and continue living and continue surviving on another planet. So there are a few ways to get into Darktooth's ending. One is to have a high amount of favor with him. As it happens, completing the Great Lesson gives you a huge amount of favor with him. You can also unlock the Silver Rod by finding a special location and taking it to that location. That's sort of a backdoor into it. Some of these events that are popping up are the humans encroaching on my land, and then this mayfly comes over and asks what is the meaning of life. We tell it wisdom. In future iterations of that event, we will simply eat the mayfly, because dragon. Let's see, you can also give Darktooth a bunch of shiny things, and you can give him the elixir, which is another item that we will be eventually getting. But simply by completing the Great Lesson, we've already earned our way into the ending very easily. So all the dragons are going to the Great Moot, and we are going to join them. We go to this little mountain over here, and this is the achievement that you get for going from hatching out of your egg and making it to the ending sequence, the Great Moot, all in one continuous life without restarting the chariot. So all the dragons are gathered over here, and the three main elders make their case. You may recognize Darktooth over on the left. So we say wisdom. And Darktooth is so happy to have us along on the journey, and MTB ordinarily might try to stop you and make you stay, but in my case, I've set it up so that MTB does not like me very much, so he's just like, good, get out of here. See you later. Or not. I never want to see you again. So we hop in our spaceship and go to this other planet, and hopefully things will be a little bit better here. And that is the wisdom ending. So now what we are going to do is restart at part 3 and do the compassion ending next. So we're going to start at part 3, and we need lots of water as well as 60 fire. And I cycle between the elements because while it's doing this little flash at each milestone of 10, you cannot add more points. And we're just going to take the Crystal Fang. You can inherit items from the previous parts, if you've ever found them in any previous life. Okay, so we are going to first use the Crystal Fang. Using it in part 3 gives us 10 to each stat. And also gives us more clear visions of the ancestral memories. Whereas if you use it in part 1 and 2, they're very blurry and you don't really know what you're looking at. And All-Mother comes to us in a vision and invites us to partake of her trial. So we're just going to consume self real quick to make sure our energy is good. And then go over here to All-Mother's envoy, Writhing Question, who is quite the silver fox. And All-Mother would like for us to live life as an ant. Now, up to this point, we have been living life as a dragon. We are giant and solitary and rule over land, and we eat anything we want, and we do anything we want. And All-Mother ants are pretty much the complete opposite. So we meet the queen, and we need to move eggs to safety, otherwise the sequence does not end. And then we move up, and what we need to do is collect food, water, and aphids for the hive. So we're going to go over and collect some water first by following this path. This is another maze, and there are random encounters, as well as boss fights of a certain degree. There are a lot of side paths, kind of weird stuff, or things that will just kill you instantly. If you know where you're going, it's all pretty straightforward. So over here is what the ants call a death pit, or as we would know it, an ant lion. So we identify it as a death pit, and then we're going to fight it by fetching a few friends. So now we are ants fighting an ant lion. This is all perfectly normal. So now we've got the water. We're going to drink some water, and then go back to the hive. As long as you go for the water or the aphids, you do get teleported back to the hive. If you go for the food in the middle path, for some reason it does not teleport you, so you always want to leave that for last. So now we are hunting for some aphids. Here is a random encounter. Oh, the caterpillar is not what you want to see. This does cost you a few seconds. It's not a huge deal, but it's not what I want to see in a speedrun. Unfortunate. However, I have tested it, and even getting two caterpillar random encounters, you can still survive. But that does cost us a few seconds speedrun-wise. So we come over here to the aphids and find that they are being eaten by a ladybug. So we're going to fight the ladybug, and we're just going to use Power Strike, because Power Strike is overpowered. So we have saved the aphids from certain doom, and we can take them back to the hive. And Writhing Question tells us a little bit of a story about how All-Mother got her philosophy. Basically, she met this rabbit and this fox, and the fox wanted to eat the rabbit, and All-Mother said, I don't like it when carnivores eat things. That makes me sad. So here, how about this? You can eat a little bit of meat instead, and I'll keep living, and the rabbit will keep living, and you won't starve to death, and everybody can stay alive and be happy. It's pretty close to how the story goes. That's just another random encounter. Not a big deal. Just a little bug. So we find the food, this dead jerk bird, and there's also a praying mantis here who makes this sharp sword on sword, metal on metal sound, which I think is absolutely amazing. And we gather a lot of friends, and use Power Strike, because Power Strike is overpowered, and easily beat that mantis, no problem. So we got the food, and all of a sudden, out of nowhere, a giant squirrel starts attacking us. So we're just gonna spam Power Strike against this giant squirrel. Now this is sort of a reverse hopeless boss fight. So you know sometimes in RPGs it gives you a boss fight that you cannot win. Well, in this fight the squirrel cannot win, because every time we die, we just instantly revive on the spot. So it's just about spamming Power Strike as fast as possible. As a very typical result, dying twice. Oh, that's a little bit on the slow side. It's because we ran into a caterpillar earlier. Sometimes you can die twice and immediately win. That's the typical result. I have won that fight with just one death before. Like, once or twice. I'm not exactly sure how that works. So we meet Allmother, and she tells us a little bit more about her philosophy, where she sees all life as being equal, whether dragon, or ant, or human, or fox, or rabbit. It is all equal to her. So as far as her plan goes, as for what to do with the humans and what to do with this crisis that dragonkind is experiencing, is she also accepts the future as inevitable. She also accepts that in 2019 and 2020, there are no more dragons, and humans have taken over everything. So she says this, look, I'm not willing to do what Darktooth is suggesting and leave Earth. I love this place, I love Earth, I want to see Earth survive above all else. So my proposal is, let's accept right now that the time of dragons is simply over. And let's embrace unity and love. So I propose that we sacrifice ourselves and place our dragon souls among humanity and guide them from within to peace and prosperity and harmony with Earth. That the time of dragons is simply over, and what does it matter what we look like? We are dragons in soul. So we may not look the same, we may not look like dragons anymore, but we will still be here and we will still protect Earth, because that's what I want above all else. And Many Times Burned thinks that's just outright insane. He sees it as surrender. He sees it as capitulation to just give up and let the humans win. And Darktooth is not against it, strictly speaking, but he notes that what Allmother is proposing is a very difficult thing to do, that it has been tried in the past with experimentation, and pretty much nobody's able to even do that. That Allmother might be able to, as she's an extremely old paragon among dragons. But to try to get all other dragons to do this is very reckless. And he just doesn't think that it will really work on any great scale, that most dragons will just end up dying for nothing. And Allmother just is very insistent. She says, there is no other way to reconcile my feelings. I'm absolutely not going to leave Earth under any circumstances, and I'm not going to try to fight or kill anything because I'm a pacifist and I don't believe in that. So this is the only thing that I am able to do. So to follow in Allmother's footsteps here, we first need to have enough favor with her, which we did get by completing her trial, and then we need to meet one of 3 conditions. The first possible condition is to have 100 water points, which we do have. So we are going to take that path. The other possible options are to have enough compassion points, which is very, very difficult to get. You need to take pretty much every compassionate action throughout part 2 and 3. That would take a really long time speedrun-wise. And the third option is to get 20 points of human knowledge, which we probably could do for a speedrun if we had to. There is a way to get some very easily, but it's not nearly as fast as just getting the water points. So all the dragons are over here, and we listen to them speak. And we are going to follow Allmother. Yes. And Many Times Burned is absolutely outraged by that, and orders us executed on the spot, so we die. But our soul was okay. So we do this water check, and we are reborn as humans in the modern world. The end. Now, one thing to note about this achievement right here is that down at the bottom it says, this reduces your energy lost by the passage of time. And it has the unintended side effect of not allowing you to die of starvation. So not only are we not reliant on hunting grounds, and not only are we not reliant on events, we are no longer even reliant on consume self. So you will not see me use consume self again. Okay, so our next ending that we're going for is the survival ending, and we're going to do many times burns trial, which involves a lot of combat. So we need fire for strength and earth for durability, and we're going to need the crystal fang and the bloodstone, and that's all. Fire and earth are your main combat stats. Water and air do help a little bit. They have some decent moves that can be unlocked for combat, but generally speaking, fire and earth are what you need. We're going to use the crystal fang to get even more stats. And that takes up a day. And the next day, we're going to use the bloodstone. MTB invites us to his trial here. We're going to use the bloodstone, which has two effects. First, it increases your fire temporarily by a very large amount until the end of the day, and it also increases the damage that you do by a flat bonus. So we are pretty much as strong as we can possibly be, and we're also very durable because our earth is very high. So MTB's envoy never ever administers this trial over here, where we're going to fight against a few different animals. This is a snake who would like to become a dragon. I don't think he's going to achieve his goal because actually half of his combat moves are bugged, and he always dies to one power strike. Now, in previous iterations of the speedrun, I would fight these opponents twice and then eat them because dragon. Well, this time around, we're going to just fight them once and pass them by because dragon. If you've ever played the game Choice of the Dragon, you might remember that one of your stats is Disdain, which is your stat about not caring about things. So we are practicing our Disdain here, and we pass these jerk birds by because dragon. And our next opponent is this bear called Agony. I don't really know why he's here. I'm still kind of confused about that, but we beat him up. And pass him by, because dragon. And our next opponent is this Neanderthal guy called Last. And he... all the other Neanderthals were killed by the humans, so he would like MTB to repopulate his people. But we're just going to beat him up and then pass him by, because dragon. And our next opponent is not many times burned, but rather it is his envoy, never ever. And we're just going to use Power Strike, because Power Strike is overpowered. Now, for some reason, Never Ever messes with your interface here. I don't know why this is, it's never explained. But MTB says stop, and he talks about the future as he's seen it in 2019 and 2020, where there are no more dragons, and humans have taken over everything, and there's a lot of pollution and stuff, and he is pretty sad about all that. So, in case you haven't guessed by this point, Many Times Burn's plan is just to kill all humans now before they have a chance to cause any more problems than they already have. So, what he says at the moot is he says, look, what's been happening up to this point is that humans and dragons have just had these one-off little skirmishes that dragons traditionally live alone. So, whenever a dragon comes into contact with a band of humans, the band of humans always have a numerical advantage, and that keeps ending poorly for the dragon. So here's my proposal. Let's all band together into one giant unstoppable force, and just make it our life's goal to wipe out every single human that we see. Total war, non-stop, single-minded, this is what we're going to do, and I believe, I have hope, that this prophecy, this future that we've all foreseen, can be prevented if we take this extreme path. So at first it kind of sounds like he's homicidal or xenocidal, and that he's like kind of evil and just says, "Grr, arg, let's kill everything." That's the best solution to everything. But really, what he's doing is he's trying to defy fate. He's trying to defy this prophecy that they've all foreseen. That Darktooth is trying to trick it. He's saying, well, if dragons are going to be extinct on Earth, let's not be on Earth. Imagine that. And Allmother says, well, maybe our bodies won't survive to 2019 and 2020, but our souls can. So she's trying to trick it that way. But MTB is very fully embracing the notion of no fate but what we make. That there is no such thing as fate. That we just need to take extreme measures if we want to prevent this bad future. And I think that's something to respect. And all of the elders kind of have a point to what they're saying, and all of the elders think that the others are a little bit crazy. Or as I put it in one comic that I commissioned, let's see if I can remember this. We must... Our only choice is to declare total war on the No-Tails and destroy them, is what MTB says. And then Allmother says, no, we must show compassion for all life, even at the risk of our own. And then there's Darktooth who says, I just want to get away from these two lunatics. So that's the way I see it. So once you commit to MTB's ending, there are a few different solutions that you can do. You are brought to this village and you need to destroy the village somehow. You can just participate in a few fights in hand-to-hand combat. You can also use an ability gained from having level 10 fire. You can use an antimatter grenade. Or you can use the Dark Spine, which is a gift that MTB can give you. As it happens, we do have level 10 fire, so we're just going to take that solution. Very quick, no risk. I also like that this single village is the difference between extinction of dragons and extinction of humans. So by destroying this one village, dragonkind is going to survive. And now everything is okay and peaceful, and dragons are still alive. And that is the survival ending. Okay, so that is all 3 endings done with, so we are going to restart one more time and wrap up the final achievements. And do the secret ending. So we need a little bit of everything. I'm going to cycle through all the elements here. There's a little trick to it. When we almost run out of points to assign, we are going to subtract 1 from fire, add 1 to water, and then rest into air. So -1 + 1 air. Okay. That is correct. And then we need this. We are going to be using all of those items. Okay, first thing, as usual, is using the Crystal Fang to gain some stats. And then next we are going to go visit several buildings up north. This is actually the first time, well, no it's not. I was going to say the first time we're looking at the map. We did go to the map a couple of times, but this is the first time we're going to be clicking on some other icons. So there is a building up here where there are some friendly doggos standing guard. And we are just going to pass them by because dragon. It may not seem like it did very much, but what this did is it unlocked a few more icons of other places we do need to visit. The elders once again invite us to their trials. They do that when you reach certain milestones of fire and water. But we are not going to do that again. We're going to go to this sheep icon, and we need to answer no to their question, otherwise this run is over. Nope. Okay, so we are on track, and we are going to ask the third question each time. What this is doing is it's giving us some human knowledge. We are going to need sufficient human knowledge in order to gain entry to a certain building in a little bit. We're going to go to a burial scene in order to get a little bit more human knowledge. This goes pretty fast. So we just watch this burial scene, and then we say, that's nice, goodbye. We just pass them by because dragon. Of course, in these events you can bust in and start killing things and stealing treasure and causing havoc, but we don't need to do that for the speedrun. Our next order of business is to go down here to Tempest territory. We did meet Tempest earlier, you may remember. We got the Beezor from him. Well, now we're going to challenge him for some of his land. And when we do, we get suddenly tackled in midair. And we have a little tussle here where we use Power Strike to knock Tempest away. And then we land in the water. And we continue fighting Tempest. And Tempest always opens with 2 air attacks, so just using Power Strike, because Power Strike is overpowered, will win the rock, paper, scissors both times. And then we sing a song of pure desire for the land, and Tempest realizes that we really, really, really want this land. He says, fine, you can have it, if you want it that badly. And we also get this tarot card. We are going to go to our other drac neighbor, who we did not meet yet. His name is Vantage. He is hiding underground, so we need to go hunt him down in order to challenge him and claim some of his land. Vantage is a red dragon. So first we meet this jerkbird, who's like, Vantage is hiding underground. You need to go down there. We say, fine, whatever. So it's very dark down here. We can't see anything. But we do find an outline of the skeleton, and there is a pretty gemstone. And we take the pretty gemstone, even though that's a bad idea because it will explode. It is slightly faster to take it. And then we see what are apparently some doors. And they offer us a treasure if we promise to kill Vantage in our fight. And we say yes, and get the spheroid, even though that's a bad idea because it will explode. It is slightly faster. And then there's a maze where we select the red options because Vantage is a red dragon if you were paying attention. And then we see these dead animals that are definitely not diseased. And we pass them by because dragon. And Vantage says, ha ha ha, those things, they explode. We say, aha, what a surprise. So we engage Vantage in a little bit of combat here where we just spam Power Strike because Power Strike is overpowered. And Vantage always opens with the same moves, so just by using Power Strike, you always win. And Vantage is a little bit sad that he used all these traps and still lost. So he wants to know if it was right for a dragon to use traps, even though dragons are always supposed to fight head-on. It's a nice little choose-your-own-adventure moment. I think it's pretty well done. You can tell him whether he was right or not. Okay, since we have claimed some of Tempest's and Vantage's land, we have unlocked a couple new areas. Inside Vantage's land is a Dwarven trading post, where we are going to sell the False Face and the Shake Stick, which are Dwarven items. So the dwarves are very happy to see those back, and they will pay a high price for those. So we get a pretty enormous amount of shiny things. Now you might notice that I picked the False Face first, even though it was the third option. It seems to violate our principle to use the topmost options. It's actually because the False Face is worth more, and it's a longer animation time for all those shiny things to fly over. We are next going to this hut where a man lives. His name is the Artist, but he is not in right now. All we see is this cat and this bird, and we say, that's nice, goodbye. I am looking for an artist. If he is not here, then I will be back later. So we come back the next day, and we see the artist. He's this cool old guy who draws things and invents things. And we give him the amber circle that we got a very long time ago by ambushing a child and eating it alive and stealing its necklace, with the implication that this artist is that child. And he's still here, even if you took that option. Video game logic, you know. Now we have restarted with a few new lives, so, you know, that officially did not even happen. He's still here anyway. So what he says is, I am working on a special treasure that I want to use to benefit all creatures on Earth. He is making the elixir, but he says, I am lacking 3 stones that I need to complete my work. And these stones are sort of hidden in various corners of the game. We were not able to find 2 of these stones. We did find the Bezoar from winning Tempest Riddle contest in part 2. That is one of the stones he wants. We did not find the other 2, but that's okay. He accepts 150 shiny things as a substitute for each missing stone. And we happened to get quite a lot of shiny things for selling those items to the dwarves. So we deliver the Bezoar as well as 300 shiny things. And we come back the next day, and he says, I'm almost done, but I tell you what, I would like to be friends with a dragon. Will you be friends with me? And we say yes. That's a nice thing to do. Humans and dragons should be friends. It's much better than that whole dragon slaying thing. Also, saying yes gives you more human knowledge compared to saying no, and we do need as much human knowledge as possible. So he says, I'll be done the next time you come back. So we come back the next day and find that, unfortunately, the artist has been murdered. But he was able to complete the elixir in time, so we do collect that. And we give him a proper funeral. A proper drac-style funeral. So you have to do that in order to get this achievement, actually. It is slightly slower than just leaving him there, but you have to take that option in order to get the magician. So the elixir will boost all of your stats by 10 and completely heal you and completely re-energize you, and we do need that, so we're going to go over here and drink the elixir. So that is a done deal, and we have just 1 achievement left, so we are going to go to that building that I talked about that needed human knowledge in order to enter. We are almost done here. This is the last building, and then the secret ending will trigger. So we're going to select the second option to sneak in, and the second option to sneak in. And we see a bunch of carvings and torches and stuff, and we say, ah, that's nice, goodbye. And we turn around and we see, there's a dragon head mounted on the wall. This is Warden. He is one of our dragon neighbors that we could have encountered in part 2, but did not. He was unfortunately slain between parts 2 and 3. So that is our final achievement. Now, for getting all 20 achievements and having 100 in each stat, we are now brought to the Dreaming Door. And this is the convert to Buddhism and achieve Nirvana ending, which might seem a little bit weird. Like, we've been going through this game as a dragon who runs around and we eat whatever we want and we do whatever we want and we steal treasure and are just generally awesome. And now this seems like it's the complete opposite. Well, that's right, because this is a rejection of what you were originally told. Back at the very start of the game, where you were told that you were special and that you are this sacred beast, this dragon who is destined to be awesome. Now we're taking the complete opposite tack, and we're giving up everything. So there's a lot of foreshadowing in the game that this is an option and this exists, and there's a little bit more to the world and a little bit more to the universe than what you were originally told. And you do not have to be a traditional dragon. You can reject it and take your own way. Now, speedrun-wise, we are next going to be addressed by 3 spirits, and we just need to mash through this as fast as possible. And normally one kind of shimmers out and the next one shimmers in, but if you just keep mashing down here and make the thing go down and go back up, then they'll just overlap each other a little bit. So those are the three spirits, and then this is Ego. He would much rather be an individual rather than achieving nirvana. And I say, I don't want to be an individual anymore. I want to become one with the universe. And he's like, okay, whatever. So we get another egg cracking animation, which represents our hatching to another layer of reality, and we become one with the world and one with the universe, and time is coming up real soon. Time. And nirvana has been achieved. So, that is Golden Treasure, the Great Green secret ending speedrun. I hope you enjoyed. As I said before, I love this game an enormous amount. It may not be the most difficult game, and it may not be the flashiest, but I think it has one of the best stories of any adventure game, and even any single-player game that I've ever played. I cannot even describe how much I love this game, and how much time I've spent on it, and how much time I've spent thinking about it, and that I hope it's a testament that I'm the only speedrunner for it. And I've been improving the speedrun as much as I can. I hope that got under 1 hour 15 minutes, or at least I hope that it was a personal best. We'll see. But if I submitted this for a speedrun event, I do hope that you select me. But I understand it is obviously a not well-known game, and it is a little bit offbeat, so I totally get it. I still hope you select me anyway. But regardless, I hope you enjoyed, so I'm going to let the credits run, but see you next time.